and kick this off. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, always appreciate you guys being on. My name's Andrew David. This is Blake Newbar's High Performance Call that takes place Monday through Friday, noon Eastern time, live right here. If you're watching on YouTube, say hello, drop a comment, let me know. So last couple of days, guys, we've talked about ADHD. We have talked about how our brain works. Oftentimes as entrepreneurs, the level of individuals that have ADHD that become entrepreneurs is fantastic to me. I love it. I think it's absolutely great. And then understanding who we are, how we act, and what's going on is paramount to you achieving what you want to do, right? Simply being aware of the issues that are there in your life and being able to identify, oh, this is why I'm reacting in this way in this situation. This is why these people are struggling to connect with me. This is what I can do on my own, with my own relationships, my own actions, and how I can improve those. Here's what I can do to help my brain work a little bit better so I can achieve more of what I want to do. So I want to talk a little today about brain health as adults. And we're going to talk about a couple of topics that some of you guys comment on continuously. We're going to talk a little bit about brain health, neuroplasticity, different things like that. So I think I'm on the wrong. Oh, dang it. This isn't even. Hold on. Give me a second. I'm on the wrong one. All right. Let me get to the right one. I closed the wrong one, guys. On that note, looking prepared. See, as I was preparing it,
Andrew, come on. You don't make mistakes. No.
It's not a mistake. I just let my attention go in a different direction while I was preparing this. You know, that's what happened. I became hyperactive with different things, and my attention went somewhere else. All right, this is where we want to be. Where am I at? Where's my screen? There we go. Share screen. V, if you can keep an eye out, I think we have someone in the waiting room if you can let them in. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about brain health. Now, we're going to kick off with a study that was done. Now, looking at brain health, looking at neuroplasticity is part of what we're going to get into, and neurogenesis, right? We've talked about before neurons and how our brains work. We've talked about the electric signals and the chemical reactions that go through those neurons in order to move signals from one area to another. So what they did with rats in this study is they had some that they had limited how the rats, through chemicals and whatever, some of them were unable to create new neurons, right? And so that is neurogenesis. The ability to create new neurons inside our brain is neurogenesis. So in some of them, they were unable to do that. In others, they were. When they put them into this situation where it was, here's where the water is going to be, the ones without the neurogenesis capabilities struggled to find it, like creating the new memories, creating new pathways for themselves, right? Fairly easy to kind of understand, but when they struggled to create those memories, it was harder for them to find where they needed to be, right? That kind of makes sense, guys? So here's the thing. The brain we've now learned, it can build new nerve cells called neurogenesis. These are the neurons inside our brain, the nerves that we're talking about. The new connections between existing brain cells called neuroplasticity well into our later years. So we have the existing brain cells and we have new brain cells. Neuroplasticity is creating new connections, right, between existing cells. Neurogenesis are new cells altogether. Are we clear there? Everybody kind of good there? I'm trying to kind of create a foundation for us to look at. So, and I can get these slides if you guys want them, but I always recommend you guys study some of this. So the birth of neurons from stem cells when you're being born, that's neurogenesis in babies. Most of it's done before you're born, right? After birth, it comes from two areas, the olfactory bulb and the hippocampus. So structure of the forebrain responsible for the sense of smell. How many times have we connected memories to smells? Think about it, guys. How many times have you smelled a perfume and you start remembering that crush that you had in high school, right? You smell a food and you remember a time that you were sitting down for that Italian dinner in that little restaurant in New York, and your elbows were pressed up against people right next to you, back in a world where we used to sit next to each other, right? But those smells create and are connected oftentimes with memories. And then you have the hippocampus. So this is and guys, remember, I am not a psychologist. I am not a doctor. This is simply me sharing information that I gained after some of my own research and studying things. So, a seahorse-shaped structure that's located within the temporal lobe of the brain, just above your ears. It's important for learning, formation of memory, regulation of emotions, and spatial navigation. Okay. All of these things sound, where we're talking about habits, we're talking about creating new habits, we're talking about, ADHD, all of these things sound familiar, right? Hippocampus. There we go. The lemon test works every time. Yep. So as expected, the discovery of neurogenesis in adult individuals has raised questions. How can we directly encourage the development of new neurons? Is it possible to heal our own brains? Now, we're looking past severe trauma here. We're looking at simply this process of aging. And if we can help with that, and we can increase cognitive function, if we can create new neurons through neurogenesis, if we can create new pathways through neuroplasticity, guess what, guys? You can teach an old dog new tricks. So everybody that's complaining about, I'm not sure about learning this, you can. And there are things that you can do that will help that, right? Not just that, but it'll improve your mood, memory, learning skills, all of this. You can become more neuroplastic. So it's the ability of the brain to adapt to changes in an environment by forming new neural connections over time, right? This is how we adapt, master new skills, store memories and information, even recover after traumatic brain injury. So here's your neuron, right? And the little lights here are representing the electricity, the chemical reaction that's rolling through everywhere. This makes sense for everybody, right? We got that. This is kind of the beginning of both a combination of neurogenesis, neuroplasticity, where they're creating new connections through existing neurons, right? This making sense for everyone? This is what we're looking at. So it appears the brain will acquire new knowledge and thereby actualize its potential for plasticity if the new learning is behaviorally appropriate. Okay. That learning must lead to changes in behavior. So it doesn't work to just learn something and never touch it again. Right? Education and execution. How many times has that been said? Education and execution. If you're going to learn something and learn it, you've got to act on it. Okay? It has to then be behaviorally relevant and necessary. All of you guys are in a position where these behaviors of advertising, marketing, writing new headlines, creating video, doing any of these things, then yes, here we go, right? But we've got to learn and act. Make sense? Everybody good? Awesome. So, perhaps more important is the extent to which a learning experience is rewarding. This is where we talk about recognize your achievements and reward yourself when you need to. If you reward yourself in the right way, especially if you have kind of interactive play and you're doing something, it increases the prefrontal cortex, PFC. A lot of times you'll see that in some of these articles. If you're reading the PFC activity, prefrontal cortex, this is where a lot of that stuff takes place. All right. Now, why is all of this important? Because you can either live your life with a growth mindset or you can have a fixed mindset. You can go through life looking at it and saying, failure is an opportunity to grow, or you say, well, it's because I've done everything I'm capable of doing. I'm just not good at it. Maybe challenges aren't for me. If you're one of those people, you get frustrated, you allow yourself to then get overwhelmed and you give up, that's forever going to be your pathway. But someone who's living life with a growth mindset, a legitimate growth mindset, not only am I capable of learning, I'm capable of growing. Right? Give me feedback. Help me learn. I want to see others succeed, because if they are, then I'm going to try new things. I'm going to learn new things. I'm going to reward myself for it. My brain is going to work better. Why should I read? Why should I read and apply things? Because if I read and apply things, my brain is going to grow and I'm going to grow and the opportunities that I have in front of me are going to grow. Your cognitive function can increase. Guys, reading and acting, paying attention to what we go over here. When we look at true neuroplasticity, we look at truly creating a brain that functions at a higher level. It boils down to just a couple of things: a willingness to learn, applied behavior when it goes to learning, right? So exactly what Ramsey's talking about, the value of applied knowledge, not just having knowledge. So applying, learning, purposeful practice as you're learning, and then applying that knowledge as you create new neurons and cognitive function becomes better. Look, you're helping fight off Alzheimer's before it gets there. How much better is it going to be when you hit your 70s and 80s and 90s and cognitively you're still there, right? And we don't have to limit ourselves. The world that we are in now is vastly different than it was 30, 40, 50 years ago. If you look back at movies and TV shows that would portray 50 and 60-year-olds, I mean, I'm retired, I'm done, life is over, right? They're sitting in their chair reading paper and that's all they've got, right? And it's so ridiculous because people nowadays, what are they, 50 is the new 30, 60 is the new 30. With the proper health activities and not just exercise, but things that you can do to help your brain, people are living longer, smarter, and more productive than they ever have. So if you're sitting here at this point going, I'm not much in as far as tech goes, I don't know if I can learn this. Get over yourself. Yes, you can. Right? Now, here's how we do that. Amazing that the mindset can affect neural pathways. It absolutely can, but only if the mindset is then applied. So here's a couple of things. Number one, if we want to make sure that our brains are as neuroplastic as possible, that we have an opportunity for neurogenesis, the first thing is sleep. Do not allow sleep deprivation to derail your actions because it can. Okay. So sleep. If you miss it, your reaction time is slowed, judgment and concentration impaired, appetite stimulating hormones, meaning you eat too much, right? Immune system suppressed, emotions are heightened. So take sleep seriously. Number two, take exercise seriously. Now, they have shown that typically exercise that is going to help you better with neuroplasticity is aerobic exercise, not as much anaerobic. As much as anaerobic is great for building muscle and overall health, it's not going to do quite the same thing for our brains and neuroplasticity. Okay. Not to say that it's bad in any way, but it also means you should add in, if all you're doing is anaerobic, you want to add in aerobic. Does everyone know what that means? Instead of just lifting weights, we want to do some aerobics. It reduces mental fatigue. It reduces stress, helps fight depression, anxiety, mood elevation, runner's high. They talk about throughout these articles, depression and anxiety. People that are experiencing more depression typically have more trouble with neurogenesis. They're not producing as many new neurons. Something about the hormones and other things that are released. Maybe it's the cortisol, whatever, but high stress and high depression cause a shortage in new neurons. Okay. So if you have some of those, you need help, please by all means go find it. Okay. It helps elevate moods. Let's see. Ernie's asking how many hours of sleep. It's up to you. Right. And so what I mean is some people function great with 8 hours. Some people function fine on 6. Some people do great with naps instead of one block of time. You've got to find what works best for you. Okay. I have what's called non-restorative sleep disorder. So even if I have 8 hours, unless I do a couple of things and there's some light supplements and things that I can take, where my REM sleep is a little bit more profound. Okay. Then, otherwise I struggle a bit. So you've got to learn about yourself. And if you feel like you're not getting enough restorative sleep, then talking with the doctor might be a good idea, or changing your pre-sleep habits could be beneficial in that regards. So nitrous oxide is something, if I'm not mistaken, it's something that helps bring more oxygen into the blood, but there's different things. It depends on your heart. It depends on why you're using it. It can help with increasing The size of your blood vessels, which can help with sex drive and other things. So there's also, working out, getting a pump, all of this kind of stuff. Is there a doctor in the house? We've got several doctors. I don't know if they're on right now, but, point is, yes, listen to your body, seek the help if you need the help. Okay. I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving actual medical advice. I'm simply sharing research and you can look at it. Is there a difference between exercise and doing yard activities, raking leaves versus walking? They can both burn calories, right? But here's the thing about all of these elements when it comes to exercise, real quick, guys. When it comes to walking versus sprinting versus jogging, all of them are incremental, meaning at some point, your body is not going to respond as well to certain activities as it did when it began. That's why we reach plateaus. That's why walking, a lot of people, as they're starting to lose weight, one of the first activities they do is they start walking because it's painful to jog, or they don't want to jog, or they don't have the energy. At some point, that walking isn't going to be burning as many calories because, like we've talked about, the neurological pathways and then the other nerve endings throughout our body create, and our muscles are customized to a certain activity. Once we become too accustomed, the level of force that our body has to exert in order to accomplish something decreases. We're not burning as many calories. Our body's not working as much. There's still a tremendous amount of benefit for a lot of different reasons. We talked about with ADHD, getting out into nature could be one of those things that really helps you stay level. So there needs to be some modifications to that from time to time. I mean, that's the reality, right? So yeah, we talk about getting your heart rate up to 80%. That's how much of this is aerobic and versus anaerobic, and all, aerobic versus anaerobic simply means more oxygen, oxygen deficient, this type of workout versus that type of workout. The key is staying active. Very few of us are working out too much, right? So just be a little more active is what I recommend. Finding a trainer could be a good thing, as long as they're a trainer that's willing to work with you. That's a problem with everything, right? Everybody's strategy's got to be a little bit different. A workout program for me that I put together, or someone puts together for me, isn't going to work for Carolyn or Ray because they're their own person, right? My dietary needs are going to be different than yours. So, it's understanding all of that stuff. So again, learn about yourself and seek help if you need it. Next, take friends seriously. Helps your immune system, improves your mental health. We've talked about this a couple of different times. Yesterday, we were talking about with ADHD and having the right team around you, building relationships, giving value to, that loving relationship next to you. And if it's not a significant other, then we're giving value to friendships, to mentorships, to coaches, to parents, whatever. But it does absolutely help you, and it helps eliminate what we talked about yesterday. A couple of the biggest things that happen when we think a little too much, when we get into that devil of negativity, was what we talked about. If you guys remember, with ADHD, it's one of the traps, the devil of negativity. When you worry alone, you have that heightened feeling of vulnerability, the diminished feeling of power and independence. Finding friends helps battle that. And if you're in a positive environment in that regards, it's easier for your brain to function at a higher level. Next, take reading seriously. It can increase your empathy, improves brain connectivity, reduces stress and anxiety, reduces symptoms of depression, reduces risks of dementia, provides mental stimulation. Studies have shown that reading provide a better stress relief than listening to music or than exercise. It also helps increase the brain connectivity. And if we're decreasing our risk of dementia, guys, all of these things help you live longer. Andrew, I don't like reading. Okay. Your call. But hey, there's some benefits that you're missing out on. Audio is great, guys. Audible, listening to books. If that's the only thing you got, then do it. May I do that in conjunction with other elements? Okay. So do that. Next, take vitamins seriously. Now, without getting into the next one is about diet, but looking at vitamins, one of the things to remember, you got your vitamin B. We've talked about enzymes and probiotics last week. Omega-3s are important. Omega-3 fatty acids, salmon, nuts, things like that. But you can supplement omega-3s. That helps with your brain neuroplasticity. Okay? Got to go Wim Hof. David, yeah. He's one heck of a dude. All right. So anyway, take vitamins seriously. And then last here with brain health, guys, take your diet seriously. Again, there's the almonds, the pecans, there's things inside of blueberries as the flavonoids, and there's other things that help with the omega-3s, all of this here. Looking at the entire thing, your diet, water. Now, a couple of other things that I don't have on there that they talk about within certain research projects. One is a bit of calorie restriction. So consuming a little bit less than normal, right? If you're not going to restrict calories too much, they talk about spreading out the amount of time between meals or occasional intermittent fasting. Again, this is conversations between you and your doctor if you need them. If you're in health, if you're in good enough health that you can make some of those decisions on your own, then try it out once in a while. Sometimes certain changes can increase your just your brain function. It gets rid of brain fog, right? Looking at ADHD, one of the reasons that I snack on carbs or that I've got a sweet tooth, and some of you guys may resonate with this. I've got they're not the Thin Mints, the Girl Scout cookies. They're the Keebler version, the little grasshoppers. I keep some of those in the freezer almost all of the time. That's how I take care of my sweet tooth. I go in, I grab one cookie, I eat it, and I walk away. But that little bit of the reason that I go for that all the time is because there's a dopamine dump that I get from eating that cookie. And with ADHD, my dopamine levels are a little bit lower. If we're talking about creating better brain health, I need to restrict that. I need to exercise. I need to have the protein. So daily protein intake, a lot of it depends on what you're doing, right? So there's all sorts of different rules to look at, different recommendations. Some places will say 0.5 gram per body weight. Others will say 0.6 to 1 point whatever. Part of it depends on this. It depends on that. Where are you getting your protein from? What type of protein is it? How well do you digest protein? When I was doing the live blood analysis, some of the nutritional microscopy that we were talking about last week with Chris, I would do blood analysis for people that were vegans that hadn't had meat in years, but they couldn't digest even the vegetable protein that they were taking. So they were limited on what they were getting for protein because their body wasn't digesting even the plant protein that they were taking in, right? Understanding what your body does is important. It's an important aspect of being successful with all of this, with your business, with your health, with relationships, all of it. You've got to figure out where you are and what you need to do. Okay. The rich are sleeping by 10, up at 4. Supposedly your brain is in between factual and in dream state, and they listen to affirmations. I don't know who's got audio on. Somebody's got audio. I don't think that's me. It varies, Ernie. It's so different for everybody, right? And that's a big part of it. So I'll listen to, not with this, I have an eye cover that's got speakers in it. I'll listen to that sometimes when I go to bed. Sometimes people do that. They've got the white noise, or they've got this megahertz, or these affirmations, or that. Get it into your head any way you can. Anything is better than nothing. Sleep what you need to sleep. And then don't be lazy and sleep too much. Get yourself up. We talk about Miracle Morning for Entrepreneurs, and it's a phenomenal book. I love having a morning routine, but you're not going to see me up at 5 a.m. I just don't function at that point. Everybody's a little bit different, So find what works for you guys, and then challenge yourself to do a little bit more. And that's the key. Understand that no matter where you're at, no matter how old you are, no matter what's going on in your life, you can continue to increase what your brain is capable of. And if we increase what our brain is capable of, then we can better our relationships. We can better ourselves. We can better our businesses, and we can achieve a better future. And no matter what's going on, we can find a way to always rise up from the ashes, fly like the phoenixes that we are, and go out and kick some ass. Love you guys much. Tomorrow we will be on